So there've been a number of conversations over the years, conversations and movements around the bigger picture of what happens when we translate. So not just translation as a craft or the aesthetics of translation, but the deeper issues of power and what it is we're trying to achieve, of the way translation can be a colonial act in that it suggests that all meaning should be accessible to those who want it. And through organizations such as Literature Must Fall, of which Kavita Bhanot is an organizer of, and indeed Kavita's landmark essay, Decolonize, Not Diversify, as well as other publications such as Madhu Kaza's Kitchen Table Translations, we felt that there were many voices out there, most of which were, their ideas would take root in ephemeral spaces such as Twitter threads or online essays. But we wanted to present something that would be not definitive, but a coalescing point, a snapshot of a moment in time. This is where the conversation is now. This is a space where we can give all of these voices just that bit much visibility and put them in conversation with each other. And through that, hopefully spark a wider discussion about the role of translation, how it is we have been translating, and maybe what we could do differently to get us to the next stage. My co-editor, Kavita Bhanot, and I had both spent a lot of time thinking about the politics of translation and working in an anti-colonial way. But I think what we both learned, well, I don't want to speak for Kavita, but what I learned was that translation is deeply, deeply personal. And the way you translate is hugely influenced by where you're coming from, by what you are bringing to the process. And many people who come from more marginalized positions have particular needs and particular aims of their translation. And so I was constantly, in editing these essays, being surprised and having my viewpoint expanded by things I'd never thought about. I hadn't thought deeply about the intersection of disability rights and colonialism and the way that plays into translation. I hadn't thought a lot about not translating as a strategy of resistance. I hadn't really probed into what happens if you're translating from a language that is threatened or that is shifting from underneath you, what that must be like. And so by being so personal and so honest and direct about their own translation positions, not just their translation methodologies, but how everything about their being, everything about their background, everything about where they are in the world affects the way they translate, how they translate, and what they translate. These contributors really expanded my consciousness about what translation can be. And I would say blew apart the relatively narrow view of translation that is more common in the literary world. Well, I'm going to start by reading from the book, specifically from Anton Herr's essay, The Mythical English Reader, which you can probably guess from the title, has a lot to do with the role of readers in this whole process. So Anton says, our work, meaning translators, our work is inherently collaborative. We deal with virtually every level of publishing, from rights holders to editorial, to publicity, to readers. And the publishing world is so opaque that you need all the help you can get to pass the gatekeepers. Point being, we need a movement to make real changes in the landscape, and movements mean collective action, the sum of all of our individual efforts coalescing into a single anti-colonial direction. And by we and our here, I do think that Anton is including readers. And readers aren't passive recipients of literature or books. Readers are part of the conversation. Readers can demand things and talk about how things could be different and be part of this wider discussion about how translation can do more than just be a so-called bridge between languages and cultures, can be more than sometimes a rather extractive colonial process of taking knowledge and culture from one place and bringing it to another without thought of the people who actually produced it. Readers can read in a way that is thoughtful and engaged rather than just consuming things at an aesthetic level. Readers can and should be part of this conversation, and I hope will be.